Hello, my friends. Hello, my friends. Good morning. It is another amazing, extraordinary live morning show with Jacob Israel. And I'm so happy that you're all here. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, some interesting stuff, some things that may concern you a little bit. But I'm not scared. Are you scared? You scared? Tell me in the chat if you're scared. I don't think anybody's got no fear. That's what the thumbnail's all about. I don't think anybody's got any fear. Not today. Why? When we got the Lord on our side, when we got things going according to plan, even though it seems like things are out of control. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Holy macaroni. I'm so excited to get this show rolling for you. So excited. Do me a favor. Tell me in the chat if if the sound is okay and everything else. Because we got to get going. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, P. Marlon. Good morning, Titus. Good morning, everybody that has gotten here bright and early. No fear, as Mary, excuse me. God's in control. How can we fear when we know that the Lord is with us, right? That's all right. That's all right. Got a lot of interesting things to talk about. Thank you, Unheal, for telling me the sound is good. Oh, I'm fired up for this one. Let's talk about what I wanted to talk about first. We got a couple of things to get into before. You'll notice the clock up there. You'll notice a solar emission, a coronal mass ejection. It's called the cannibal. Didn't we just talk about cannibals? Didn't we just talk about it just a little while ago? Interesting. Very strange. This author, it may be one of those things where you got to be careful when you say the person's name because you never know. He is someone that has caused quite a stir, big bounty on his head for writing a book he wrote back in what was the late 80s. Well, he was attacked recently. Terrible. And stabbed and everything else. Probably over this. His 1988 novel, The Verses from Satan, which, by the way, Satan means adversary, adversarial. On the show, you learn that really everything is working together for our good, even the bad stuff in the world, even as monstrous and as evil, as horrific as it seems. People are going to pay the price for the wicked deeds they do. They're not going to pay a penny more. They're going to pay exactly what they owe. We reap what we sow. But this book, which really had a lot of people up in arms, especially over the content of it. It was banned in Iran, right? When Khomeini was like, this is it, and issued like an edict for his calling for the man, It's terrible. Terrible. Not just that, but he had translators that were attacked and everything else. This book created such a stir. Such a stir. Got so many people. But there's a reason why I wanted to talk about it. Not because of, he's doing okay now. He's doing all right now. But look at what people started to say. Look at what Boris Johnson was saying. He says, I'm appalled that Sir Salman Rushdie, ironic that his last name Rushdie, just strange, as he was rushed, to the emergency room. He's back to talking again. He was on a ventilator for a while. Could you imagine for writing a book? But he says, look, we got to exercise our right and we should be able to say what we want to say. We should never cease to defend that right. That's what Boris Johnson said. We shouldn't worry. We shouldn't have to censor our beliefs. Isn't that nuts? Meanwhile, here's a vet that was arrested. I'm sure you saw this. How terrible, right? This guy was arrested because he put out a tweet that hurt people's feelings. But Boris Johnson's like, no, we need to. And a lot of the people, that's the hypocrisy that you see in this world system which is quite corrupt. You're not going to do good if you put your faith in this system because the system is going away. Well, Mr. Rushdie He's been taken off of a ventilator. He is doing much better right now. And thank God for that. We don't like to see anybody hurt. We don't like to see anybody having a hard time. But we do like to see this. We like to see that no longer something that isn't working and didn't work, and they probably knew it didn't work. Not even probably. I think all the papers that were released said pretty clearly that they understood that it wasn't what they were saying it was. And if you remember, everybody came to us and everybody said, you won't get it, you won't get sick, you can't transmit. Then that changed, right? That changed. You won't get really sick, you won't die. Then that changed. But do you remember when I did a show called about the pandemic, right? Of the right? I did a whole show about that where they were using this, I call it witchcraft, where you're using words and you're casting a spell on people. And they were saying it so often, and it was so irresponsible. And it was at a time when you knew that they were trying to get people to shame other people for not doing something that now we know you have no better chances of doing well. It's not now and who's being held accountable? Not many. I don't think any, except for the fact that right now we're finding out that, guess what? No longer do you have to, you have to test before you go back to school if you've been exposed, and no longer do you have to do this, and no longer you have to do that. See, it's almost like either they're totally incompetent or this was all part of the plan. And that's why Mr. Gates, the dude who wants you to eat all sorts of bugs and all sorts of crazy, this guy, you create the virus, then you create the, for his Microsoft, then you create the, right? This guy. Oh my goodness. He said, we got 2 years, just like Trump said. He says, one day it'll just magically disappear. But meanwhile, the people that are being caught out and they're being exposed to be just such hypocritical liars, saying, I never told people we needed to shut things down. This guy right here, the maker of sickles. That's what his name means. And you know what a sickle is? That's what death carries. The guy who made a joke recently, I don't know how many people in the chat heard him making that joke about, I made it in my kitchen. How terrible. How many people died? How many people got sick? People are dying. People get sick all the time, right? People get sick all the time. It happens. Part of life. But how many people lost their jobs? How many people, lost family members and still probably aren't talking to this day? How many homes were broken up? How many parents were ripped away from their child because there was a dispute in the house and one was like, you need to get it. The other one was like, I don't think we should. And because of that, then the child becomes the pawn. How many people have myocarditis right now? How many people? And he's making jokes. These people. I'm telling you, you don't need to take things into your own hands, ever. Trust God. Watch what happens over the next couple of years. As things get more and more locked down and more kooky and more crazy, you watch how God's provision comes to you. You watch how things are going to be okay for you. I think everybody right now in the chat, how many people we have in the chat right now? Let's take a look. Well, I put this great sign up because this is good news. We got almost 1,000 people here and like 300 likes. So do me a favor. I know it's exciting to be in the chat. If you can, please just X out of chat for 1 second. Just go on your phone and click that like. Very simple. I see people doing it right now. It really helps. I know that people forget sometimes. It's the little thing that you can do for what I do for all of you, and it means a lot. We're very close to 190,000 subscribers right now. So if you're listening right now and you're not subbed, hit the sub. You'll be happy. Hit the button so you get notified. You'll be happy. I appreciate you, and God bless you for helping me. And helping each other, because all together, this is how we get this done. Well, here's the news, right? There was $10 million awarded. How amazing is that? For all these people that lost their jobs. $10 million, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket, right? That's a drop in the bucket. especially since how much money we just gave to the IRS. They put this through. That's why I think big things are about to happen. I really do. And oh, by the way, Johnny says sorry, and he gives me a thumbs up. Now, you don't have to say sorry. I appreciate you doing it at any point in time. Right now, about half of you have done it already, and it means a lot. It really does, and I'm grateful. Well, this case centers around North Shore University Health. Now, we had all of this too. We took, here, let me come on over here, because this kind of plays into, how we can't let fear rule us, and we have to think better. Ethan just had a big procedure. Thank you all for those who prayed and for everything else. It was a big deal. He had a colonoscopy and an endoscopy. He's been having a lot of gastric problems. You know me, I've had my intestines removed. I've had in and out of the hospital basically my whole life until all of a sudden, I got remarried to Danielle and my life changed. And the Lord has kind of really helped me with finding other means to take care of this. Because, really there's an answer for all of us, whether it's diet, whether it's exercise, whether it's just well-being up here and in here, that you may not need all no, I'm not a doctor. Don't listen to me, right? I'm just a meatball. This is just an entertainment show. I'm just a speculator. But I've been pretty okay for I don't want to knock on wood, but for a while. I have my moments. I was nervous. We were going to the hospital. There was a big rat, and everybody was protesting outside because how many nurses and how many physicians assistants and how many doctors lost their job because of this. Well, now they're saying that because all the info is out, that people are going to be able to get their jobs back, right? But yet, even though we still have service members that need to be called back, this is monstrous what they did. And we said they were going to do it, and by we, I mean me and a lot of other channels like me. And I said to hang in there, and I said that we would be redeemed. The truth always comes and reveals the lie. It has to happen. You got to hang on. You can't, if you know in your heart something is right and it doesn't hurt somebody else, and because you should have autonomy over your body, right? You should. Then you know that you're in the right when you're doing the right thing. And if people are standing against you, I've watched way too many stories of people that were forced. They weren't given their exemption, which, by the way, these people, they weren't allowed it. And that's why they've been awarded. Now, they're not getting a lot of money each. Maybe they're getting some upwards around 45 grand. But how long have they been out of work? Luckily, I left my job before they did that to me. I was the one that was in the beginning. I'm like a neat freak. I don't like getting too close to people, but but I was very I'm going to be careful with this whole thing. I don't understand it yet. And it turns out I was about the only one that didn't in this whole thing. And everybody was making jokes about it. Oh, it's all this and it's all that. And they all just lined up. They all line up. And if you did, that's fine. My wife did too. She's been suffering with these things called chalazions in her eyes, and she's getting better. I did a little warm treatment with her. A lot of people sent me in all these wonderful ideas of how to help, and she's doing much better, thank God. But never had them before, so she's thinking, is it connected? Her friend has this weird rash, never before. All of these weird things. Once again, I don't know if it's connected or not, but it's totally sus. So when I see things like this coming out, it makes me feel good because people shouldn't lose their job, especially when they really hid stuff. They hid stuff and they lied and they exaggerated and they shamed, and they're still doing it in some places. And meanwhile, you got the First Lady, right? She now has the virus of the crown. She's got 4 of the wackadoos. 4. Scorched earth, not a good thing, right? So that's kind of what's happening is that they're just coming at us, and Alyssa sent this to me. This I thought was really cool. Look at where the fire stops, right at the cross, right? You're all worried about things. We all worry. We all worry about stuff, but just have faith because it's all going to come out in the wash. I promise you that. We have better days ahead. Maybe not in the next year or maybe, but after 2024, I think things may be looking a little bit better. Not that I'm a prognosticator too, I guess. Maybe that's what I'm thinking, because I'm thinking that this is only going to last so long. There's going to be an epic shift I've been saying it for years. All this stuff with President Trumpster and all of the we're biding our time. All of this stuff, it's coming to a head. We're at the crux right now. Even Trump was warning of some terrible things going on. I'll tell you what's terrible. I don't know if you heard about this, but Meta is handing over chats. They were like, I guess, direct messaging each other on on the Meta platform, Facebook platform or whatever, and they turned over all this information. So you got to be careful what you're sharing online. If you're on a platform that's owned by somebody else and it's a free platform, it's not your platform. You know what I mean? Make sure that you're doing your texting and everything else on what do we need to get today? What do we need? Burner phones? Listen, I know the whole if you don't do anything wrong, you got nothing to worry about, but this crosses a line. You got what, Alexa in the home ratting people out, calling the police on people. You got Meta handing over. This is like Big Brother on steroids. Gooky. All we need now is like another dimension of time opened up. Oh yeah, that's right. That happened too. That just happened. Did anybody hear this? Let me go. I don't know if anybody caught this, but this is actually pretty cool. Pretty big news. Because now we're going to find a way to store more data for those quantum computers so they can really take over. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? The quantum computer could take over completely. So scientists were blasting atoms with this Fibonacci laser. If you know anything about the Fibonacci sequence, it's actually pretty cool. You should Google it, look it up. But they found a way to make an extra dimension of time. Yeah, how interesting is that? Carlos the Skywatcher, I can't show your comment, but Carlos says something funny. He says, whatever, don't send pictures of your privates, basically is what he was. You know what? I'll show it. I think you're all adults here. It actually just says, nah, I'm not going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it alone. But yes, don't be sharing pictures. Don't be doing dumb things, right? Don't share personal stuff online, not with anybody. So they were looking for something else, and this is what came out of it. And it's huge news because, you know, when you're dealing with I don't know if you know anything about quantum computers. They've been around for a while. A lot of people think that the quantum computer has something to do with the Mandela effect and everything else. I've thrown out theories out there, you know, when the D-Wave first came online and everything else. Spooky stuff. They open other dimensions, you know? They open other dimensions. And just a simple way to explain what a dimension is, like right now, we're in another dimension. The internet's like another dimension. And it can continue and continue and continue. So they found another way to another dimension of time, which means they can take data, store it there, and it would be like an unlimited resource, which is pretty cool. I don't know exactly how they're going to do that. I wasn't really that great with physics or engineering or anything like that, but I was a theater major. I was pretty good with acting. And writing and reading and faith. So I think it's going to be fine. I just find it strange that we talk about things on this show, and then days later, more news comes out about what we're talking about. So this, I don't even know. I saw Marf had a show. A lot of people sent me Marf's last show. I was really bogged down with everything that was going on with Ethan yesterday, and then I was on a panel show with Curtis over at Off the Left Eye, which was a really great show. I actually put a link in the community section of my YouTube. So if you want to check it out, you can, because, you know, I talked a lot about, just the power of the power of faith, the God-given power that resides within us that the enemy uses and gets us to create all sorts of dumb things. That faith that people that are in charge understand that by words, words are a sword. I always say, take the S off, put it in the beginning, you have a sword, and that power of life and also death is there, so that when they're saying things like it's the pandemic of the, right? When they're saying that, those are words that kill. Those are words that divide, but they're also words that unite. They're also words that build. And that's what this show is all about. It's not to get you scared, because when we get into the stuff that, the Ruskies are talking about right now. When we get into that, it's stressful, especially since I'm only talking about the Ruskies because I had a really bad dream last night. I don't like bad dreams. I don't like them. But I wasn't even thinking about all of this stuff. And before I came on here to do this show, which I thought I already had enough to talk about, clearly the stuff with Putin needs to be discussed, because who knows what to believe? Because there's fake news everywhere, right? The Trumpster told us, fake news. It's all fake news. It's what you do. You flood the earth. The dragon floods the earth with lies. Father of all lies, nothing comes out of his mouth but lies. So we can't find the truth, but the truth sets us free from the lies. So what we got to do? We got to go to God. We got to ask God, teach me the truth, no matter what the cost. Ask for the truth. Find things. Don't just read a headline and then say, oh, look at this. Because then what you could be doing without even knowing is ignorantly creating it. Because whatever a man believes in his heart becomes. As a person thinks, so he is. This is a big deal, right? So anyway, we do a show about Armie Hammer and his fetish for eating people and wanting to eat people. It's gross. And then, well, here, let me show you the before I even get into it, just so you know what show I'm talking about. This show right here. You'll see 100% Cain Abel. And I talked about the system, the duality of man, the two people in one. There's Cain, the killer, who killed his other brother, and then there's Abel, the shepherd, the one that's all about his own works, his ego, right? Because he was a tiller of the ground. And then there's Abel, the shepherd, the one who's a servant of all. The greatest of all are those who serve all. So here we are, 5 days ago. I think it was 5 days ago. It says 4 days ago because I loaded it, I think, yesterday. And now we have this coronal mass ejection that they're calling the same thing. I've never heard of this. Now, I've been looking at solar eruptions for a long time. I've never heard of one called a cannibal. What that is, and Marv talked about it on his last show with the Space Force, and they were eating the cake that looked like the Baphomet. It's basically just, it's like one ejection, then another one, and then they kind of combined, and they kind of swallow each other, and the two become one. And so they're saying, of course, and it's like every other week we hear about this, oh, it's going to knock out the power grid, or oh, it's going to knock down GPS, and it's widespread aurora. Auroras are going to be visible everywhere, which it's pretty cool. I wouldn't mind seeing an aurora. And, I don't want my GPS to be knocked out because I can't get down the street without Siri, get me to the gym. Siri's like, you go to the gym every day. When are you going to stop trusting me? We rely a little bit too much on all of this stuff. But here we are again. We do a show about this, and what? There it is, the sun. Yeah? Kooky. It's all so strange. It's all so strange indeed. But nothing that we need to really stress too much about, because once again, it's all working together for the good. So when I see stuff like that, when I see stuff like this incoming cannibal CME, I think I just did a show about this. So this is just more proof that, the beast system is going to be devoured by Christ, because that's what happens. Consumes. By the way, thank you, I am. You're awesome too. I see you in the chat. That's right. I come into the chat and I check things out now. I've learned how to do that. Getting good. Arizona's in the house. Richard, thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. Please do me a favor if you haven't already. Go down there and hit the like so we can get more people here live. It helps me. The more people that watch, the more people subscribe. The more people subscribe, the more people will learn about, how important it is to treat others better than yourself, to esteem others higher than you. To be a servant is the greatest of all. You want to live a peace-filled life? Start treating other people better. Start loving unconditionally. That means that you have to love people that don't treat you great. And that doesn't mean you got to put up with it. That doesn't mean you have to stay around them. It just means you have to understand they don't know what they're doing. But Christ comes. Here's the thing, right? So now here's how I tie this into something spiritual. This is huge too, because here you have one solar flare consuming another solar flare. The cannibal system Cain Abel, right? So what happens is Cain kills his brother, but then there's another one that comes out of the mix. So in the scriptures, they talk about the Antichrist, who declares himself to be God, stands in the temple of God. In the temple of God, it's that Antichrist spirit that's already within us all, as John says in his book. I think it's 1 John. There are many Antichrists in the world. Christ comes as a consuming fire. So here we have a consuming fire from the sun called a cannibal. I just do a show about the cannibalistic system and how Christ is going to consume that beast's nature, because that's what happens. With the brightness of his coming, consumes it away, because the truth sets you free from the lie. If you believe the lie your whole life, and then all of a sudden the truth is revealed to you within, and that lie hurt you, and that lie, it beat you down and kept you from living a fulfilled life, and the truth comes and is revealed to you, that lie is consumed. Just like the Antichrist system is going to be consumed. That's when the kingdom of God comes, there's going to be a new heaven. There's going to be a new earth. For some, we're already beginning to experience that new heaven and new earth because we have new understandings of things. But wait till the kingdom of God is here in full effect. Right now, the beast system's working overtime. They're trying so hard to maintain control. And look at all they've done. And still, it seems like they just can't get it together. There's always something kind of hindering them. Because you know why? The sun is a-shining, and it's a-shining bright, and it's going to consume the very thing that has been plaguing us from the beginning. It's going to be cool. I promise you. You just have to hang in there. And remember that everything that we talk about, there's a spiritual application. So, I talked about it on the last show, and here it is again. So now, do we have to worry about all of these terrible things that are coming, as the Trumpster said? I think that some people do, but I don't think many do. I don't think that it's like everybody has to. I think that, yeah, we may see it. But I do believe that we're going to find that when he's warning about these terrible things that are going to happen, and he's being blamed for all of this violence, I think that that's kind of rich for people to say that he's to blame for all this because, people are people, you don't see me doing terrible things. I don't care if somebody told me to do terrible things. I'm the master of this earthen vessel, and God is the master of me. So ultimately, I can choose to go off the path, and I'll pay the price for it. So you can't really blame other people for other people's actions. You can say that there are people that incite things, sure, but you can't be blamed. I mean, what's going on right now, I think, and I'm just saying this because, and I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's true, but I do feel like this is all some kind of a setup. I really do. I don't think that we're going to see, President Trump going to jail. I don't think we're going to see anything like that happen. I think what we're going to see, a red wave. That's what I think we're going to see. I don't want to think that this is all some big setup. I just feel it because I felt it for a long time, and it's a terrible. I know that a lot of people are big fans of the Donald, and I understand that. He's an interesting character. He's an interesting character, and he seems to supposedly care about this great country. He hugs the flag, right? Does that mean that I don't know. I don't know. I just have a feeling that all of this is actually just going to help. It just happens right before all these elections and everything else. And then what do we see happening? It looks like they're either total meatheads or this is all being executed the way one of the scripts would be when I wrote for WWE. It just seems that way. So maybe terrible things will happen. I don't know. I hope not. That's for sure. I think some of you should tell me, like, what you think. If you think that this is something that we should worry about, You tell me, because I'd like to know. I'd like to know why you feel that way too in the comments section. But this is something that does concern me, especially because I had this. Okay, so I had this dream last night, and in this dream, I was at some kind of an outside event, and I think it had something to do with Danielle and her school. There were a lot of people there. I felt like I was at a big estate, and all of a sudden, all these tanks start rolling in, and I knew it was the Russians. I don't know how I knew this. I felt like I was in New York. I don't know why I felt that way. Maybe it's because I live in New York. But all these tanks start rolling in, and then somebody jumps into a bush, and then they cut off between me and the people, and so I couldn't get to Danielle, and so they start like shining these lights, and then I jumped into a bush to hide, and then I found this pamphlet, and the pamphlet was a warning of a nuclear thing, and then I had another dream where I was watching a commercial, and there were a bunch of people in a house, and then their faces started to melt. And I woke up and I'm like, why did I do that? I even texted myself, because what I do is, and I do recommend this, because this could be something else. This could be something else completely. I even texted myself I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can get it so that, I don't know if you can see it. It says tanks rolled in, school event, where flyers, Russia with flyers. And then the second dream was people's faces melting. God forbid, right? God forbid. Especially we're hearing a lot about that going on now. So now Putin comes out and says, and this has been, a lot of people have are suspect of this. They think that perhaps they do have weapons that are better, even though we're being told that they're bringing out Russian, tanks from the Soviet era, because they're doing so bad in Ukraine, even though they continue to take land. It's just strange. It's just strange to me. But he brags that his weapons are years, perhaps even decades, ahead of rivals, even though they're pulling out Soviet-era tanks of storage due to losses in Ukraine. Supposedly, the Pentagon says it's like 80,000 lives have been lost on their end. I don't know if that's true. And something like 20,000 of their, tanks and whatever has been lost as well. Who knows? These are just words, right? We don't really know anything. You can't really trust pretty much anything that they say. But this is what happened just recently on Monday. So very recently, he said in a speech that they are years, perhaps even, and they want to sell them. They're going to start selling them to their allies. That's the thing. They have this arsenal of weapons that are significantly more advanced. I remember them touting a couple of their, the thing that I think we labeled Satan, the Satan 1, Satan 2, or whatever, those sonic missiles, which are spooky. But they are supposedly pulling out Soviet-era tanks because they've lost a lot of armored vehicles on the battlefield. Even though at this military forum, he's talking about his cutting-edge Russian weapons that, seemed like if they're years ahead, that's a big deal, because in today's day, right, a week ahead is significant, because you could have something that, they found a week ahead of us that gives them an edge. Could you imagine if it's years ahead? Decades ahead? I find that hard to believe. I do. But what do I know? What do I know? What do I know? I do know that when we have articles like this coming out, I'm tired of it. And I think that I'm not thinking this is going to happen, by the way. I don't think that we're going to see this many people starve, as the Washington Post and other news organizations are saying. I don't think that that's the case. I think that this is just clickbait to get people to click on the article. And maybe I'm guilty of that too. But it was really, when I saw that was really my thing, was no fear. Really? 5 billion lost? Really? No fear. Oh, and by the way, that's what the clock means. They found another dimension of time, and then there's the solar mass ejection in the background. And I'm looking at fear in the thumbnail because sadly, I get too worried about everything. I do worry too much. Don't think you're the only one. Don't think you're the only one that worries about stuff, because I do. I do. So much so. Okay, so Ethan, before I continue this, because I have something really important to say about all this stuff, because there's more news about this. I'll just get there now for those people that can't wait. You don't got to worry about this happening. Putin is saying that they're years, whatever, ahead, but they're also saying we have no need to use nuclear weapons. That just came out. There's no need to use them, especially in Ukraine. We don't have to. That's their answer. I know that there's a lot of stress right now around their shelling going on at that nuclear facility, but they've been saying this for a while too. I'm not expecting anything like that to happen. If anything, I think if anything were to happen, it would be some kind of event that would provoke a bigger altercation in the world. And that's what I'm concerned about, because I am close to New York. And I know that, when they put that video out, and then they're supposedly handing out flyers and all these things to get people ready for just in case, that makes you nervous. And then when, Trump starts to say things, oh, terrible things are going to happen. He's a guy who says stuff and then stuff does happen, especially with his, one day it's just going to disappear. It's almost like, it's just a calm before the storm. Oh, you'll see. You won't be able to miss it. Storm came. This is another reason why I have a problem trusting that the guy's, really for us. I have a problem trusting that anybody who has that much wealth and that much power, I have a problem. I don't, and that's maybe, but like I pray for everyone who is in leadership. I pray that God can work on their heart, because God can turn anybody. God used wicked, corrupt rulers for his plan many times. He brought the king of the north down. He brought down, the king of the north with his this is the whole thing. This what's happening today, there's nothing new under the sun. It's all going according to plan, because if you're woke up now, because this is the woke generation, right? All these things that we hear in the world, like woke, right? We're waking up, sure. The world will take it and turn it into something that's ugly. But no, it's good to be woke, like woke up spiritually, and to understand that this system is a system of consumption. It wants to consume you. You were given a number at birth. You're like a dollar bill. You're like merchandise for this country. You're valuable. That's why there's such a problem with trafficking, because children are very valuable for this industry. That's why you should be very careful before you get any kind of government agency involved, because not everybody's on the up and up. There are a lot of good people, but you got to be careful. You got to be careful. You got to be quick to bring your altercations to an end, and you better not call organizations to come in unless they need to be called. Not to just, I want an upper hand in a custody battle. I've been there. I ended up with custody of my kids, and I've been there. It's ugly what people can start to do, especially if the wrong people get in their ear. Thank God, everything worked out great, and we have a happy ending. I ended up raising my children. Their mothers were friends. She's in California. I would love to see them. They just visited. Everything's okay. God works everything out for the good. God bless my ex-wife, because she gave me my beautiful children, and this experience that I had humbled me, and I had the trust in God because I lost everything. When you lose everything, when you're in the hospital and you're dying and you're bleeding out and you don't know, and it's like, and you just got to trust in God. You got to take your hand off the wheel. Like that song says, you got to let Jesus drive or whatever, right? That song, you gotta let your hand off the wheel. You can't do it yourself. That's Cain's problem. Cain was like, look at what I can do. Look at what I do with my hands. I'm a tiller of the ground. That word ground comes Adamwa, which means Adam, ruddy. I'm a tiller of Adam. I'm dealing with the intellect and the ego of man. Look at what I do on my own without you, God. That's not a good place to be. Sometimes you got to trust. Now, with Ethan, so I was nervous because I didn't really think that he needed it, but he's had so many issues, and the doctor had said, because you have Crohn's and you have ankylosing spondylitis, we should check him out because he has a lot of issues here. He's got a lot of issues here. His blood work is all weird in certain areas, and that would denote that he could possibly have some kind of condition. First time I blew it off, I said, you know what? Let's wait a while and we'll do the blood work again. We'll see that, because I wasn't going to just trust the doctor on that. Then I went and my mother works for a gastroenterologist. She's an office manager over there. Ironically, my mother worked very hard her whole life, very poor. And before I got sick with Crohn's when I was a teenager, she ended up getting a job working there. So I ended up getting the best care, and then when I got older, I learned that the best care also could come from me just being smarter and educating myself and doing the preventative measures instead of all the, it's better to be preventative than to be on the defense, and that goes spiritually speaking too. Don't let the enemy into your head. Things start to get into your head to get you scared, block them out. That's what happened. So we decided we're going to do this procedure. It's a big procedure. He's never had anesthesia before. And he has to fast the whole day before. So I decided, I'm going to fast with you, bud. Right now I eat a lot. Because I work out a lot. And I said, I'm going to fast with you so you're not doing it alone. And I ended up, cutting the grass and doing probably a lot more than I should. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, I get this terrible pain in my stomach, and then I go into the bathroom and I pass out. I got all dizzy. I said, Danielle, I'm gonna faint, and I fainted right on the potty. Danielle came in. She helped me up, got me down. I was breaking out in cold sweat, and I worried. I thought, oh my goodness, the coil. They have a coil that was put inside of me to stop a bleed. I said, oh, the coil's been loose, and I'm bleeding internally. I'm gonna die. All this fear, all these things. Where do these things come from? To torment me came to my head, and Danielle says, you didn't eat anything. You probably are dehydrated. Let me get you, and made me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. With, by the way, peanut butter and jelly is a cure for anything. If you have any issue in my house, you got a headache, you cut your finger off, have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you'll be all right. Little almond milk, you'll be okay. So I ate my peanut butter and jelly, and things were okay. We went, and he went in for his procedure. I was nervous, but he's okay. He's okay. I just trusted God. I had to come to a point where I said, you know what, Lord, it's hard. I trust you with me. I trust you with my circumstance, but with my children, I feel like, I got to make the right decision. You're big enough to keep me from having this procedure done. If he doesn't want this procedure to be done, don't. And then they had a problem finding the vein, and Danielle got nervous, and it was just all fear for nothing. No fear. So I'm not the only, you're not the only one that worries about things. I worry about things too. So the moral of the story is we worry too much, and we got to stop. So when you see this, it could happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that this is just to keep us more and more stressed out when we don't need to be. So this article goes on to say that, if there is some kind of catastrophic conflict, there are already disruptions in the food supply, by the way. When this stuff happens, it is what it is. It is what it is. And, we got to just learn that not everything is going to go according to how they say it's going to go. And that many times it's just to keep us so stressed and so freaked out that, we can't even think for ourselves. And that's the problem today, is that they don't want you thinking, because a thinking person's not a person that can be controlled. And what's the best way to keep you from thinking rationally? To bombard you with nonstop nonsense. Nonsense, because it's nonsensical for them to put that article out. It's nonsensical. We have so much food in the world. It's all the things that they're saying to us. It's going to come to a head. I really believe it. I really trust that God's working things out. It's not going to be one of these things where we're poofed away. That would be great. But it's going to happen. The kingdom of God starts small. Kingdom of God starts small. It's like a mustard seed, right? But if you got that faith, what ends up happening? It becomes a tree that houses birds and animals and shelters people underneath it and provides sustenance. And there's more to this story, and sometimes it starts with a little. Gideon, when he was facing the beast system, because that's basically what it was, he had something like 34,000 men to begin with. He was scared to begin with. He was threshing wheat, hiding when the armies were coming in, kind of like me jumping in the bush. When in the dream that I had, I got scared. I knew that I couldn't get to Danielle, and I knew that there was the only way to handle things was to hide, wait for them to pass, then to go and try to find her. So spooky, right? Threshing wheat, scared. And what do the angels say to Gideon? What is God saying to you today? You mighty person of valor. That's what you are. Mighty. Gideon didn't feel mighty. I certainly don't feel mighty. You probably don't feel mighty, but you are a mighty person of valor. Courage. You have great courage. Courage is not facing things without fear. That's stupidity. That's being dumb. Courage is standing tall in the face of it. Gideon then had 34,000. And God's like, no, I can't do it with 34,000. Okay, I can't do it with that. You bring them down to the river to drink, and then I'm going to thin the crowd out. Those people that shouldn't be there, those people that aren't going to represent the kingdom well, they're going to go. And he ended up with like 300 who didn't drink like dogs. That's spiritually significant because most of them just ran to the river, right? Significant of being carnal. They were smart. They kept their eye on the field to make sure the enemy wasn't coming. See what I mean? You got to use smarts. And I'm sure that they were nervous too. But this is how these things happen. I'm sure that when the walls of Jericho came down, when they were honking their horns, right? Remember the truckers? Remember all this stuff? When they were honking their horns, I'm sure they didn't think the walls were going to fall. Oh, march again. March again. But it turned out okay. You mighty people of valor. How much I love you, how strong you all are, how you don't have much to worry about at all, how important it is that you understand that if you make the Lord your shelter and you take shelter in the Lord, the existing one, God, the creator of all, that you're going to be all right and you're going to face things. And it's going to be hard. You may lose a home. You may lose a relationship. You may lose finances. You may lose a lot of stuff. You may suffer. You may be sick. You may face great mountains. But with faith, that mountain can be something that's cast into the sea. And then you tell people about your experience, and then they're saved because of it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. So I want you all today, as I close this show, to have no fear. Have no fear, because the Lord is here. And things are moving in the right direction. Wow, thank you for that super chat, KK Windy. KK Windy says, thank you for your time to bring these understandings. Shine on. Thank you. Thank you, Richard, known as Ink Dick. I appreciate that so much. God walks with us every day. That's no joke. We got so many wonderful people here. I appreciate you all so much. Man, how I wish we didn't have to worry. How I wish we didn't have these things, to be stressed about. And how I wish that this show gave you a little bit of peace and a little bit of hope and got you maybe to pray, to seek more, to know more, because I'm telling you, God is in charge and we're going to be all right eventually. Every nightmare comes to an end. You know what I mean? every nightmare comes to an end. When, like, I had that terrible dream, I woke up and I went, phew. And that may not literally happen, right? Just this dream may not literally happen. It may just be God saying, hey, look, you're going to jump in a bush, right? Hopefully that bush is burning. Like Moses' bush, so God can speak to you and say, stop being so scared, you mighty person of valor. I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Share the channel around. Get yourself an I Am a Witness or Teach Me the Truth shirt. All the links are in the description below. Make sure that you subscribe. If you want me to show you how to do that, because a lot of people still don't know how to do that, and I'll let me transition over here and we'll say hi to everybody. Hello, everybody. That's me. That's when you get to the channel, all you got to do is, let's see here, go to the